Hi there everybody. The newest talk show with the Hungarian philosopher, that's me, about the new world situation, that's the double war, or perhaps three, but mainly the newest one is the most important, I think. That's the Iranian war with Israel and the United States of America, and another one, of course, the Russian-Ukrainian war. What does it mean? Some have suggested and suspicions a way that it's a beginning of a new era of great wars, as the Putin's brain mentioned Russian philosopher said it exactly. Could be that true? I remember that part of the movie, 1976 movie Omen, which one had spoken something about the circumstances of the coming of the Antichrist. I remember that lines. I cite it now for you, just for you. When the Jews return to Zion and the Holy Roman Empire rises and the comet rips the sky, then you and I must die. From the eternal sea he rises, creating armies on either shore, turning man against his brother, until man exists no more. The book of Revelations predicted it all. Of course, but not that way. These lines, this text doesn't exist in the book of Revelation. It's sure, but despite of that, it's just interesting, like the whole movie, especially when we look after that unexpected and very strange incidents with the filmmakers, what happened until the movie was made, and after that as well. So, the most important line is the second half of the text. From the eternal sea he rises, creating armies on either shore, turning man against his brother, until man exists no more. So, but who is that guy? Who will be that guy? The Antichrist. It's very important to mention now that I know a very old text in Jewish mysticism of the 13th century. The name is Samuel bin Abraham Abulafia. He is mentioned in Eliotard Wolfson's religious historical book, as I cite him. In a special passage, Abulafia writes that the Greek Christians call the Messiah Antichrist. Now that's all. So, I know it's hard to interpret what does it mean anyway, but I think I have a special alternative to answer that question. I say that the two persons are actually the same, so the Antichrist and the Messiah. However, originally or normally they mean the opposite. They are in the opposite meaning because the word Messiah is in its origin is the Hebrew Mashiach, which means anointed in English, and the Christians' God, the Lord Jesus Christ, as the Jewish Messiah was predicted in the Old Testament, theoretically would be the same person. So the Messiah, Mashiach, the anointed, the seed and branch of King David, exactly. However, it didn't realize. Jesus didn't fulfill the predictions of the Old Testament, the prophecies, exactly to speak. So, when I say now that when the Antichrist appears, then Christ will appear too. The time is close. Which one is the true Messiah, Jesus or the so-called Antichrist, is another question, but both persons will appear soon, if I am not wrong. This is the last time. Let's talk about actually the actual wars. It's really strange, but it happened. The Iranian regime is incredible, aggressive, and fanatic. This is an Islamist regime. What's the main problem with that war? Why did it started? And another war, why had started the Russian-Ukrainian war, and the Gaza war, why had started? What the most essential answer to that questions? The main cause is just the same I see. The main cause is the EU foreign politics, and of course the UN's foreign politics. That means the so-called international law, and which our most important goal is to exclude from the international political conflicts aggressivity such as war making. So it's completely indifferent if you are righteous or you aren't. When you start a war, you are a war criminal, etc. It's a stupid way to see righteous and real that political situation. Like it's very actual. The Spanish foreign minister had denied to the US to use their military bases, which decision of Spain, of the Spanish foreign minister, makes much harder to get the US their goals in that actual war with Iran. The Sanchez ministry refers to the international law and the need of unconditional diplomatic solutions to negotiations at the end of the time, because it's a dictate of that institution, of the system. I think it's just ridiculous when you haven't got any solution in diplomatics, as Karl von Clausewitz said, you use another political way, which is war, actually. So, Mr. Donald Trump, the US president, has made that decision and started that war with Iran. Or perhaps, better to speak, he has continued that war, which was actually began earlier, last year in June, when the US had bombed the nuclear facilities of Iran in Fort Natanz and the third one, I don't remember, actually Esfahan, okay, I've got it. So, what's myself is interested in what I think what would be the most interesting question here about this war. Of course, that one, when does it have an end? When will it end? When will it end? And how? How will it end? Because the goals are differently interpreted. The Israelis are more clear. They have said that they want a government, a power change, or a leadership change, a regime change, better to speak. They want to see more a non-Islamic, non-theocratic dictatorship in Iran, and many people want in Iran oneself that the same, who has some education, who have that people who have some view to the world, who know internet, who had some schools made, some education made, perhaps university degree made. They want to live more natural, more free, or democratic. They want a democratic, relatively at least, democratic Iran. They want to get free from that Islamist dictatorship, which characterizes that regime, which is falling down right now. But how? I have heard that the US and the CIA actually just try get involved, the Kurd, the militia and these forces in Iran to support an uprising against the Iranian regime, to support the opponents of that regime in Iran. Could that be enough to defeat that regime and those forces? They support the regime, the Revolutionary Guard, which is very strong, and there is another army, the regular army of Iran. It's a complicated situation. One thing is sure, that's only the start. The Kurdish forces will be well armed to the CIA, but they are few. They are not enough, far not enough to achieve that goal. So I suspect that some support of land troops from Israel and the United States will have their need to achieve that goal, regime change in Iran. But they don't say that. Why? Why? Another question is here, we have right now, that new one. I suspect that they want to get the support of EU countries, firstly. Because the highest cost of the war, if the US will have made such a decision that land units, land troops, land army will be used to get Iran and Israelis as well, of course. The highest cost is not in financial things or in soldiers' life, but in politics, and not inner politics than foreign politics. The relationship with Europe, that is the main issue, and we see that are some enemies, clear enemies of the US foreign politics, such as the above mentioned Spain. There are other countries as well. They don't support the Republican administration of the USA in this war, or anyway in other wars, in other military conflicts, for example Venezuela, or why they have supported Israel in Gaza war. Anyway, but the Russians, that's another question, another issue, another subject completely. They are in the another way to see the conflict. They hate the Russians, they fear the Russians, so they support, Europe supports unconditionally the war against the Russians. They support hugely Ukraine to defend oneself against the Russian army, which is not unconditionally argumented or defended with arguments, with the right arguments, because I'm sure that Russia has the right to their very fundamental national interests, such as geographically and via the military defense and that aspect as well. So, as the EU foreign politics in earlier times, I mean about 20 years ago, ignored the Russian interests, basic interests, in the question of the Ukrainian geographic situation, and not only that, the main problem was that Ukraine became very negative with its relationship with Russia, very bad relationship became with Russia, and the EU didn't realize that the situation will be time to time worse and worse, and the war will the end. There wouldn't be possible as a right solution, but the EU countries, I speak about France, Britain, Germany for first. So they shouldn't realize that Russia has the right to their basic interests. They didn't recognize that Ukraine is not an old and not a real country, not a real state. It was always the part of Russia for many centuries. The relationship between Russians and Ukrainians was also very, very bad for centuries. So I wanted to say that it's the EU's responsibility, the EU's fault that this war had happened anyway, that this war has started anyway. Another war with Iran. The EU politics is just so bad, just so wrong. Just like in the third case in the Gaza war, they want to rebuild Gaza. They negotiated with Hamas representatives, Brussels committees, correspondents had made it. It's a very stupid politics. I'm sure that Gaza mustn't be rebuilt. The people of Gaza must be moved to Transjordan, and that's all what I wanted to say about that subject. So I will make an end for this video soon. So the last words are here now. The US needs the support of EU, support of Britain, France and Germany, mainly the support of Brussels, and they have the right to get it. That means also that their relationship with Israel mustn't be so wrong. It has to be normalized to make it better. It must be clarified how they go with the Jews who live in Israel, in the Holy Land, to speak clearly. And then we can solve, the world, I mean, can solve these problems. Not the UN, not the EU, these bureaucratic institutions just make the case even worse, as it was former. Right politics needed to the world, that means for the Western civilization. That's the first one. First thing we should recognize that the EU build up as the same civilization is it's only the eastern part of the Western civilization, which another part, of course, is the USA, and there are some edge countries as well, but these are the two main parts. Europeans must realize that the EU and the EU members, the different EU members, for example Spain or Britain or France or Germany, mustn't lead an opponent, a very different, contradictional foreign politics, with especially in the relationship with the enemies of the Western civilizations, mainly with in the question of the Islamic world, and then the things will go much better. All right, bye bye.